Electric vehicles have been around a lot longer than you may realise. In fact, the first was invented sometime between 1832 to 1839. They were quite easy to drive and didn't emit a smelly pollutant like other cars of the time, and they were perfect for short trips around the city. And as more people gained access to electricity in the 1910s, it became easier for people to charge their electric vehicles, adding to the popularity. However, in 1908, it was Henry Ford who mass-produced Model T, which dealt a blow to electric vehicles. Eventually, the electric car disappeared by 1935, only to re-emerge nearly 100 years later.
As a government, we are also announcing the Carbon Neutral Government Program that requires government organisations to be carbon neutral by 2025.
Transport is responsible for about 48% of our energy-related greenhouse gas emissions. Climate change strategies are often technology-orientated. So, are electric vehicles the silver bullet?
BMW are probably the forerunner of the first of the EVs being electric vehicles, starting way back in 2013, I think, with the i3, 100% electric.
50% of our leads and our inquiries are basically people looking at full electric or even plug-in hybrid.
I drive a Toyota hybrid vehicle, electric vehicle. I'm always in my car. I bought an EV mainly petrol reasons, just to cut costs from the family, expenses from week to week.
Worldwide, electric vehicle sales rose 41% in 2020, and in New Zealand it is approximated that there will be 64,000 electric vehicles on our roads by the end of 2021. And with the government's rebate scheme for purchasing clean vehicles, New Zealand will start to see more and more electric cars on our roads. So, is New Zealand ready for the increase of electric vehicles?
The big issue with New Zealand initially with EV vehicles is the infrastructure. And it also started the whole argument with the farming and rural guys with the utes.
Where do we charge it up? What if I get stuck on one of the hills that are behind me here?
An electric tractor maybe?
It's just not practical.
Right now, most people are relying on fossil fuel powered vehicles. The systems are in place, set up, they're economical as such. Just they are considered by the government duty vehicles.
Electric cars don't emit any carbon when being driven. However, there are other aspects of electric vehicles that play a huge role in emitting greenhouse gases, such as mining for lithium and cobalt for the batteries, and producing energy to charge the batteries. On the New Zealand government website, on this graph, the dashed line shows the target reduction in emissions, and the solid line is the government's actual reduction in emissions. It is quite obvious the government are way off target. So I posed a question to someone who works in government. What is your personal opinion? Will electric vehicles make a difference to the climate crisis?
Personal opinion and not that of the ministry, might make a damn bit of difference. The reality is that it is a feel-good factor. There are other factors which probably will have a much greater influence on the environment than actually moving away from petrol or diesel vehicles into low-emission battery electric vehicles.
Overall, electric vehicles are not going to make a large positive impact on the climate crisis. We will be seeing more electric vehicles on the roads because of government's push to be carbon neutral by 2025. But the country's infrastructure is not ready and may cause problems in the future for certain industries, such as farmers. However, the impact electric vehicles have had is the ability to get people thinking of ways to reduce carbon emissions.
Get us to this 2050 goal of zero emissions.
Electric vehicles have created the butterfly effect, where our thinking goes way beyond the electric cars. It's made us think about better ways to live and create a cleaner world for the next generation.
There comes a time in every person's life when one realizes the effects of cleaning and personal hygiene among everyday people. When thinking back to days before detergent and bleach, the past can seem almost unlivable. Modern-day cleaning technology has been developed and perfected by the everyday housewife, preventing sickness and allowing time for her family to find their place in the world. But sometimes the clean and modern world has serious undertones and consequences often unrecognized by society. The simple act of washing your hands and sterilizing equipment contributes to household bacteria and viruses mutating and developing immunity. For years, antibiotics has been prescribed by doctors, becoming a staple of human innovation since its first discovery in 1928. Antibiotics has become our heroes, saving us from our grim past, where amputation was the only way out of a cut on the knee. But every superhero has their kryptonite, and antibiotics so too come with its inconveniences. The disadvantages of antibiotics are beginning to outweigh their usefulness. Antibiotic resistance is a growing problem in this world due to the misuse of medications, as germs and bacteria develop immunity to the very drugs that are designed to kill them. This means the germs are still active and begin to grow until they become virtually untreatable. Taking an antibiotic to treat illnesses such as colds or flu is one of the most common ways that resistant bacteria grow. Taking an incorrect dosage or using another's antibiotics also contributes to this inevitable disaster, along with stopping an antibiotic too soon before the course has been completed by thinking that your infection has been healed. A doctor's prescribed timing allows the concentration of your antibiotics in the bloodstream to be maintained at an effective level, and stopping your medication means that those bacteria can develop an immunity, which leads to the risk of getting the infection again in the future. It can be hard to know when to stop antibiotics, especially if there's no visible sign of infection in the body. However, booking an appointment with a doctor and asking for an expert's advice is crucial if you want to slow the rate of superbugs developing. Despite antibiotics' tenacity for treating bacteria, they cannot be used to cure viruses. Demanding a doctor for a cure to your seemingly never-ending flu is worthless, as bacteria and viruses have different mechanisms that cannot be broken down in the same way. While no one is immune to antibiotic resistance, studies have shown that the most affected are those over 60 years of age, as well as young children, as their immune systems have not yet been fully developed. Interestingly, this means that children may become more susceptible to receiving the same infections, gradually becoming more and more resistant over time. Antibiotic resistance is a natural process, but its gross misuse has led to incurable infections such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, gonorrhea, and salmonellosis. Every year, 2.8 million people in the US are affected by the misuse of antibiotics, causing the deaths of over 75,000 people a year. Of course, seeing your child suffering from a common illness can be heart-wrenching, and it is only natural that as a mother, you would do anything in your power to relieve your child from their pain. But in these moments, we must remember the detrimental impacts of these short-term solutions on children's futures. Together, we must resist our primal instinct to avoid suffering and to safeguard ourselves from our own demise. It is the utmost example of empathy and defines what it means to be human.
Back in the year 2003 was the start of a new future for smoking, the invention of the vape. Since their entrance to the market, vaping and the use of cigarettes has risen greatly, with 7 million adults vaping in 2011, rising to 41 million in 2018 and now nearly 80 million in 2021. Generally, vaping has appeared to be safer and healthier for you than smoking. but research into the invention has revealed the health dangers such as the increased risk of respiratory, heart, and digestive illnesses. Vaping is also considered more addictive. In 2019, we saw 47 deaths linked to vaping, and 2,290 cases of vaping-related lung illnesses reported in the US. However, there could be a plus side. Vaping has fewer after effects. The vapor does not linger for too long after in the air. It does not pollute the air or harm others around you. It can also help smokers quit. It is a safer option for your health at a cheaper price. So what will we see in the future? What do you think of vaping?
I hear that it's better than smoking.
Have you seen many students vaping?
Yes.
How do you think this affects them?
If they're paying for it, somehow it's an expensive habit, and there's probably sort of a self-righteousness attached to it where they think that they're doing something that's not as bad as smoking. So they probably think that they're virtue signaling, saying, look at me, I'm vaping. Vaping has an added element of rebelliousness, but also, it's not quite as bad as things were before, so it's sort of sophisticated rebellious.
Do you think vaping has played a part in lung diseases and other respiratory issues?
Yes, so definitely vaping and chemicals, anything foreign going into the lungs in terms of substances can have adverse effects on breathing. That vaping does increase incidence of asthma flaring, but also more throat cancers. It's also got a lot of toxic ingredients that could be potentially linked to other lung conditions like fibrosis, and there was also some concern with something called popcorn lung disease.
Do you think vaping is any better than smoking?
It serves a purpose to quit smoking, it certainly does.
Do you know many people that vape?
Yes.
Would you say their addiction is getting worse?
I think so. I can say that for a couple of the younger people I know who are vaping, they started with like disposable ones, or they started with no nicotine ones and told me like, oh, it's just like I won't get addicted, I'm not using nicotine. But then as they vape more, they've upgraded to like permanent vapes, and they don't have any intention of stopping. So I think it's definitely become addictive.
Do you vape yourself?
I do, yes.
In your opinion, do you think vaping is healthier than smoking?
Yep, when done responsibly. There is a decent number of young people very recently that are starting to vape with increasing nicotine levels, and I don't think that's a good idea. Probably still better than smoking, but not advisable.
Do you think vaping is more addicting than smoking?
Yes, I do, because there's such a wide range of flavours and different nic levels. It really makes you want to keep doing it until you've tried everything.
Looking over the various perspectives, it is a common opinion that the vape has many negatives associated with the health risks such as asthma flaring and the concern of young people vaping, with graphs showing that there has been a significant rise in the teenage use of vaping, with teens smoking less and vaping more, and the wide range of flavours encouraging people to continue vaping. However, it is generally healthier than smoking.
I am a vape user.
I do the vape.
Yeah, I used to be an ex-vaper.
Nowadays, most commercial stuff is really safe, but it hasn't been around long enough to tell. I advise people that don't smoke to not pick up vaping.
World Health Organization point is a harm reduction method, so not a harm elimination method.
But the kind of child that chooses to do something like that with their money or their time and their health is a certain type of student.
A lot of my friends who vape say it actually helps calm their anxiety, so they'll often vape when they're feeling anxious, and then it has a positive effect on their mental health.
To conclude, we are now aware that vaping increases the risk of cancers such as throat cancers due to the toxic chemicals that make up a vape. However, it is a way of helping people quit smoking. The invention was created as a harm reduction method, not a harm elimination method, with numbers of vapers globally on the rise.
In the year
1886, Carl Benz invented the first ever vehicle powered by gas. Over the past 135 years, the initial invention of a car has developed and evolved into what we know it as today. However, it is not finished evolving. Recently, professionals have been working on perfecting the idea of a self-driving car, which will be a completely autonomous vehicle. As there is for any new invention, there has been some debate over whether the idea of a self-driving car will have a positive or negative effect in the future.
I drive twice or 3 times a week. We may need to go to the shops.
I drive every day.
I got my learner's license probably about a year ago.
I will be able to start learning to drive in a few months.
Do you enjoy driving?
Yes, I do enjoy driving.
I do, yes. I find it very liberating.
I find driving terrifying. One of the largest responsibilities I've had in my life. It's terrifying.
Would you feel safe in a car without a driver?
No, but not at the moment, not with the technology that's about.
I think I would if the cars had been tested very thoroughly.
At the moment, where self-driving technology currently is, no.
From these interviews, it seems to be common for people to be unsure about the safety of cars at the moment, with the technology that has been developed so far. By introducing self-driving cars, the fundamental change is that it is no longer a human but a computer who is in control. A survey that was conducted by AAA in March 2019 showed that 71% of Americans would be afraid to ride in a fully self-driving vehicle. But are humans really better drivers than a computer would be? A recent World Health Organization study revealed automobile accidents to be the leading cause of death for 10 to 24-year-olds worldwide. Distraction and use of excessive speed are major contributors to automobile accidents, and these are risks that could be eliminated when a computer, rather than a human, is in control. Self-driving cars are predicted to have fewer fatalities than cars driven by humans. It is fair to say though that with the limited information currently available, the idea of self-driving cars is a change that most people would still feel anxious about. And certainly that was reflected in the interviews I conducted, where the people I spoke to were yet to be convinced that the technology could be trusted. Possibly, if explained and proven to be trusted, this would help people to become more comfortable with the idea.
I think the main thing that's positive about self-driving cars is it transforms who owns the car.
I think overall self-driving cars will be introduced to the roads, whether or not it's a good idea.
I don't think I would be an early adopter of a self-driving car. I think I'd want to see that proven and see it being proven successfully before I decided to purchase one myself.
Because I think a large percentage of crashes involve tired people or people who are have been drinking and whatnot. And so hopefully that would decrease the amount of deaths, yeah.
A network of self-driving cars that are the only systems on the road is safer.
There are many different factors in the decision to bring self-driving cars onto the roads in the coming years, and big changes that we can predict. Even the seemingly small change has the capability to change the way we live. Self-driving cars will impact the economy as redundancies in the driving industries will be inevitable. In the 2018 New Zealand census, almost 50,000 people listed driving as their job. This included bus drivers, truck drivers, delivery drivers, as well as taxi and Uber drivers. If self-driving cars became common, these jobs would no longer be required. However, self-driving cars will also create new jobs. In fact, Tech Republic, a US tech publication, predicts that 100,000 jobs will be created in this new mobility industry for software engineers and navigation experts. Another impact on society is that young people with no driver's license will be able to travel in a vehicle by themselves. This could revolutionise travel to and from school, however the safety of this may be questioned. With changes like these, self-driving cars are going to impact society in many ways. And with technical innovations rapidly progressing, it is inevitable for these changes to occur in the next decade. Overall, there are many effects that the development of autonomous vehicles will have, such as drivers losing their jobs, children being able to travel by themselves, less fatalities on the roads. Today, the introduction of a computer instead of a human driving a car may seem like only a small alteration. However, the impact of this over the years and the direction it will take us as a society is an example of a butterfly effect in action.